rocket itself in the rather humid Florida air.
And Nicole, I know, we're just about 30 seconds from fueling, but from your perspective, obviously this launch escape capability is not something that the space shuttle had. So from an astronaut's perspective, what's your take on having the ability to abort from the pad or in flight?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. It's what we need to be doing with our spacecraft, and I think anytime you can better ensure the survival of your crew in any situation during, launch and on the way to space, that's what we need to be doing.
Launch autopilot has started. Propellant load has started.
So we just heard that call that propellant load has started. That means fueling of Falcon 9 has begun. Okay, so we are now at T-minus 34 minutes, 34 seconds and counting. Fueling of Falcon 9 is underway. The launch escape system is armed. And again, today is the first in a series of 6-month missions for NASA's Commercial Crew Program. And the Dragon capsule was loaded with propellants about a week and a half ago, just a few miles down the road from us.
Yeah, that's an area that we affectionately refer to as Dragonland.
Yeah. Yep. And in order to fly, Dragon needs fuel and an oxidizer. So for the fuel we use, Kate, you're going to have to help me with these words.
No
I can't
problem.
pronounce them.
Yeah, so it's monomethylhydrazine, or MMH, and nitrogen tetroxide, or tetroxide, for also known as NTO, for the oxidizer. These are two propellants, a fuel and an oxidizer, that when they come into contact, they combust instantaneously. So it's a great propellant to use in spaceflight because you don't need an ignition source. So we use those propellants to maneuver.
Hola, buenas
Dragon
noches
on
para
orbit.
todos.
And those propellants super power the Draco engines, as well as the 8 Super Draco engines that would be utilized in the launch escape system in an abort scenario.
And again, we want to be crystal clear. Now that fueling for Falcon 9 has started, that means that the 8 Super Draco engines. Now let's go over to SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne for an operations update. John?
Well, we are counting down those final minutes, and everything is still looking good for Falcon 9 and Dragon for an on-time launch just under 33 minutes from now. As you heard, Falcon 9 began propellant loading right on time at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, the propellants that feed the Merlin engines that power Falcon 9 are 2 liquids. One liquid is the fuel, the other is an oxidizer. And that fuel is a refined form of kerosene, also referred to as RP1. Now, our oxidizer is densified liquid oxygen, also called LOX. Densified means it is kept much colder than typical for launch vehicles, and it takes up less volume. This allows for more oxidizer to be loaded into the first and second stages. Now, to ignite the fuel and oxidizer in the Merlin rocket engine, we use an ignition fluid called T-Tab. When T-Tab comes in contact with oxygen, it ignites, and it gives off a green-colored flame. Once we've got the flame going, we can then add the kerosene fuel into the chamber, and the engine goes to main power. And you might see the green flash just as the second stage engine ignites, following stage separation 2 minutes 48 seconds into tonight's flight. Now, currently we're early into propellant loading. The first stage fuel tank is about 10% full, and that first stage is the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle you can see on your screen. You've got the black carbon fiber landing legs, then the white propellant tanks of the first stage, topped off by that black cylinder, the inner stage. Now, liquid oxygen loading is also underway on the first stage. That loading will begin on the second stage, which you can see on your monitor, which is the cylinder, the white cylinder just above that black interstage. Liquid oxygen loading on stage 2 begins at T-minus 16.5 minutes. And we'll continue loading liquid oxygen on both stages until the last few minutes of the countdown. Helium loading into pressure vessels is also underway. We use that to pressurize the tanks in flight as the propellant is pulled out by the Merlin turbopumps. Now, on board the Dragon spacecraft, the astronauts are monitoring systems while propellant is loaded
Cryohelium load.
into the Falcon 9, and the call out you just heard, Ground letting the crew know that helium loading is going on the vehicle right now. So as I mentioned, the astronauts are listening to this right now. As part of their training in the simulator, we also can give them the playback of sounds that we've recorded in Dragon capsule during recent flights. Plus, they also had a discussion with Bob and Doug after their flight, who related what their flight experience was like earlier this year. Now out on the eastern range, we continue to hear they're green, ready to go. There are no problems, and they are go for launch. And finally, the weather, as I mentioned a little while ago, it's actually improved during the day. We're down to 20% probability of violation. The biggest thing we're watching is just in case in these last half hour, if a rain shower might spring up within a mile or two of the launch pad. But currently, the rain looks like it's holding.
Hola, muy buenas noches para todos. Estamos a punto de iniciar el lanzamiento de la misión Crew One de NASA y Spacex. Es un gusto estar con ustedes, acompañarlos en esta noche. Han reportado en la transmisión de NASA que se realiza a esta hora a través de la NASA Televisión. El tiempo se encuentra bastante bien. Por el momento vamos para el luz verde de lanzamiento. Saludo cordial para todas las personas que nos siguen. Vamos a estar muy pendientes de todo lo que está ocurriendo a partir de este momento, cuando tenemos cerca de 28 minutos para lanzamiento. 28 minutos para lanzamiento. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a dejar la transmisión de NASA que se está verificando en este momento. Hay que decir varias cosas acerca de la misión que estamos apreciando. Una de esas cosas tiene que ver con que tomará a los astronautas que se están preparando en este momento cerca de 8 horas y 30 minutos en llegar a la Estación Espacial Internacional. Este es un vuelo bastante importante porque es un punto de inflexión justamente en lo que tiene que ver con la carrera espacial, con lo que viene a partir de este momento. Sabemos que hay desarrollos por parte de empresas comerciales como SpaceX, como Boeing, como Blue Origin, como Virgin Galactic, empresas que están haciendo que el espacio esté cada vez más cercano. Así que vamos a ir un momento con la transmisión de NASA y vamos a continuar con todos ustedes acompañándolos en este lanzamiento cuando quedan 27 minutos para el lanzamiento.
Where all 9 Merlin N1D engines shut off in preparation for stage separation, which is our second event. This is where the first stage detaches from the second stage, with the first stage making its way back to Earth for landing as the second stage continues on its journey with the third event. SES, or second stage engine start 1, is where the MVAC engine lights up and propels the second stage along with our Crew 1 astronauts to orbit.
As Stage 2 heads towards its targeted drop-off orbit, Stage 1 will execute 2 burns in order to make its way back to Earth. The first is the entry burn, where 3 of the M1D engines will reignite and then shut down. This helps to slow the stage down in preparation for entry back into the Earth's atmosphere.
While the first stage is heading back to Earth, the second stage will cut off its 1 Merlin engine that was ignited right after stage separation. Once this happens, we will wait for confirmation of a good orbital insertion.
And about 90 seconds after Dragon gets into orbit, Falcon 9 will land back on Earth. The landing burn, which is a single engine burn, will bring the vehicle's speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship about 9.5 minutes into the mission.
While Falcon 9 first stage is landing, Dragon is preparing to separate from the second stage. At about 3 minutes after the second stage gets into orbit, we should have a great view of Dragon with its 4-person crew drifting away from the second stage. Once Dragon is a short distance away, it will begin checking out its Draco maneuvering thrusters to make sure Dragon continues to increase separation distance from the second stage. It's worth noting that these are not the Super Draco engines that would be used during an abort scenario.
And about 40 seconds after separation, Dragon's nose cone deploy sequence will begin. It will take roughly 4 minutes for the nose cone hooks to unlatch and open, exposing its guidance navigation controls, or GNC, that will help Dragon autonomously fly to the space station.
And lastly, once the nose cone is deployed, the remaining Draco thrusters on the forward bulkhead will be checked. From there, over the next 27 and a half hours, Dragon will begin its approach phase, undergoing a number of phasing burns as it makes its way to station. All of that will be coming up soon.
Nos agrada mucho que nos acompañen. Aquí vamos a estar pendientes de esta transmisión. Cualquier pregunta,
stage 2 cryo-helium being loaded now. But for now, let's check back in with Marie at Kennedy Space Center. Marie?
All right, thank you, Leah. If you're just joining us, we are now at T-minus 25 minutes, 5 seconds and counting from the second astronaut launch from U.S. soil this year, and the first with 4 astronauts aboard Crew Dragon. We want to go over to NASA's Garvey McIntosh. She is standing by in Japan to speak live with the president of JAXA. Garvey, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Marie. Hello, I'm here in Tokyo, Japan. This is Garvey McIntosh, and I'm going to interview JAXA President, Dr. Hiroshi Yamakawa. Dr. Yamakawa, konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
Could you tell us about the partnership between JAXA and NASA?
Oh, thank you very much for your question. The U.S. and Japan have built a close relationship in the aerospace field for more than 50 years. And NASA and JAXA have been collaborating in many fields, including earth science, space exploration, human space activities, and aeronautics. Astronaut Noguchi participates in the Crew 1 mission as the first foreign astronaut on board a U.S. commercial spacecraft. This shows a trust relationship between the two countries. We recognize that this mission is an important milestone toward future international space exploration, and we will firmly support him from the ground.
Thank you very much. Could you tell us a little bit more about today's mission and what the mission represents for Noguchi-san?
Well, as the first Japanese astronaut on board 3 different spacecraft, Space Shuttle, Soyuz, and Crew Dragon, I'm sure he will play an outstanding role based on past experiences. Experiments on the ISS are expected to contribute to the advancement of people's lives on Earth. Protein crystal growth experiments in microgravity environment may lead to the development of new medicine. Japanese private companies are also getting to use the experiment module Kibo for the initiatives. We expect that we'll round the utilization of Kibo. Thank you.
Thank you. And last question, looking a little bit towards the future. I know recently Japan, along with 7 other countries, including the United States, recently signed the Artemis Accords. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Artemis Accords and what that means for future space exploration?
Well, last month in October, the Japanese government signed the Artemis Accords, representing the strong partnership as one of the first countries to join in the future international space exploration. Well, I think Japan has expertise in human and robotic space technologies accumulated through our experiences, TV, and Hayabusa 2. And we continue to move forward with technical considerations with NASA and other international partners. In addition to the field of human spaceflight, we will continue and deepen our cooperation with NASA and our international partners in order to explore the new era of space and contribution to our society on Earth. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, and arigatou gozaimashita. Thank you for your time this morning, and I'll pass it back to you, Tahira. Thank you.
All right, so we just took a look at numbers across all of our social channels, and there are over 500,000 people tuning into this broadcast right now. And the hashtag LaunchAmerica is trending at number 20 on Twitter, last time we checked. And Marie, Kate, Nicole, I've got some great photos rolling in, and I have a few that I just have to share right now. So take a look at this first one. We've got this little explorer asking if there's room for one more on the mission.
Aww, I love it.
I know. Let's go to the next one. We've seen so many cute space pups today, and this corgi and its little NASA onesie is just the icing on the cake.
Yes. I can't get enough space dogs, so.
Okay, let's go next. How incredible is this little patriotic astronaut holding the flag? Now, y'all, this one definitely made me pretty emotional the first time I saw.
Yeah. Justamente para la transmisión de un evento que promete ser bastante cautivador. El lanzamiento de la Crew One, la primera misión comercial oficial de NASA y SpaceX. Los invito a que permanezcan con nosotros. Preguntas, quieren participar. Acabamos de ver la entrevista que le hizo NASA al presidente de la aeronáutica japonesa JAXA. Y en este momento pues continúa la transmisión de NASA. Una transmisión a poco más de 20 minutos. 20 minutos estamos del lanzamiento de Crew Dragon. Los reportes es que se mantiene la cuenta regresiva. El tiempo, al parecer, está muy bien.
We will perform our mission. We remain tough and competent. We operate with resilience. Anthony and team are on console here in Mission Control for launch and will be back tomorrow for docking. A reminder that a launch today will take about 27 and a half hours to get to station. Docking Monday to the Node 2 forward port scheduled at 10 p.m. Central Time, 4 a.m. GMT. Once Dragon is fully docked to the station, the team here in Houston will assist the Dragon and Space Station astronauts with leak checks as they work to open hatches on both Dragon and inside the station's pressurized mating adapter. We expect hatch open to take approximately 2 hours after docking. That's it for us here in Mission Control Houston. I'll send it back over to the team in Florida. Marie?
All right, thank you so much, Shaniqua. We are inside of T-minus 19 minutes until launch. So exciting. We started the day with 50% probability of launch, and now we're up to 80% chance of the weather cooperating. So we are so excited. I know we're going to be turning our attention solely to the pad and going over to Hawthorne to take us through the final count. But one thing that really stuck out to me earlier, and I wanted to mention, when Shannon was talking about her path to becoming an astronaut, she talked about how she was 4 years old when she decided that that's what I want to do. And it really stuck out to me because my 4-year-old daughter is watching and she's dreaming about becoming an astronaut. And it's so special for, I think, especially for little girls, maybe I'm biased, but to be able to have a role model like Shannon and like you, Nicole, because at the time when Shannon was 4 years old, women weren't astronauts. And what an amazing time to be in when little girls have women to look up to, and African-American children have Victor Glover to look up to and see that, you know, they're represented and they can do this too.
Yeah, and I think NASA and the world of space exploration, you know, from the human spaceflight side for sure, has been, you know, over the years just so progressive in understanding how this diversity is so important. And I love thinking about your 4-year-old daughter watching launch tonight and being excited about this. And I'm thankful to be here tonight with you two ladies kind of representing.
I'm super excited. I have seen SpaceX launches before. I've seen shuttle launches before, but I've never been this close to the launch pad. And I'm just, my palms are sweaty with excitement. And it's going to be incredible. You know, night launches here, they just light up the sky. And so I'm super excited, and I can't even imagine, you know, I think a lot about Victor Glover this evening because, as we said before, this is his first time going to space. He has thousands of hours as a test pilot, like a super impressive resume, and this is his first time going to space, and I'm so excited for him to be part of this mission and get to go to the ISS after a long wait.
Yeah,
and that is a beautiful destination. Let me just tell you that they, you know, the four of them are going to, you know, do amazing work there. And it's been mentioned a couple times before, you know, this partnership that we have that's allowing us to do such incredible things that are just ultimately about improving life on Earth. It's very
Absolutely.
Cool.
And Nicole, I think it's worth mentioning, we didn't talk about this earlier, and I know you are a very humble person and you're focused on the crew that's on the pad right now, but you are the last resident International Space Station crew member to launch from and then land back on U.S. soil. So I think that's significant.
Yeah, as a shuttle crew member, and it's kind of, you know, weird to think that was that long ago, but you know, I don't think any crew members goes into it thinking about what, you know, what first or last it is, but I'll tell you, having worked at Kennedy Space Center for 10 years as a NASA engineer, and to be able to, support a mission like that and be here watching this tonight, really historic event, this is the place where we learn, that there is a solution to every challenging problem. And in the words of a person I mentioned earlier, Mr. Honeycutt, here's how we can, not why we can't. And that's what we saw go on tonight as well.
Absolutely. And with T-minus 15 minutes, 10 seconds, and counting to lift off, we want to focus in on the pad as we proceed through the final stretch of the countdown. We will turn it over to Hawthorne to take us through launch at 7:27 this evening, Eastern Time. John?
15 minutos.
Thanks, Marie.
En este momento NASA se
As Marie
refiere
mentioned, everything
a que
is
se mantiene el
looking good
procedimiento
for launch of
y ya
Falcon 9
estamos
and
entrando a la
Dragon.
cuenta
It's going to
final.
come
Ustedes
at
nos
27
acompañan
minutes
aquí en
and
Roberto Grandes
17
Historias, no se
seconds
olviden
after the hour,
en
just a little under 15 minutes from now.
seguirnos
We
en
began
este
propellant
canal.
loading on Falcon 9
Ahí
on time
tenemos.
at T-minus 35 minutes. You may have
Todo
heard
sigue viéndose muy bien para este lanzamiento.
on the second stage, so the RP-1 kerosene fuel is complete. We also got the start right on time 2 minutes ago of liquid oxygen loading onto the second stage. Now on the first stage that you can see with the white plumes coming off of it, fuel loading is continuing. We're about half complete with fuel load. That'll finish in 8 minutes at T-minus 6. Now densified oxygen, the liquid oxygen, continues to load on the first stage. That'll come down and finish about T-minus 3 minutes. And then, as I mentioned, the second stage has just begun liquid oxygen loading just 2.5 minutes ago. That will continue all the way down to T-minus 2 minutes. Now, currently, eastern range is go. Everything continues to look good. And the weather, as we said, has continued to cooperate. You can talk about it. You can't do much about it. But tonight, it looks like all conditions are good on the weather. And finally, Dragon. The Dragon mission director and team, they are reporting no issues. They've completed the communication checkouts earlier in the countdown. You can see the crew access arm is retracted away. What you have left now is just the strong back alongside of Dragon you can see on your monitors. We have armed the launch escape system. The crew is strapped in and they are ready to go. Their next major event's coming up at T-minus 10 minutes. They're going to get final instructions relayed to them. The crew displays will be configured for launch, and that allows the crew to get insight into how launch is proceeding and provides constant updates on vehicle health to the crew that you can see on the right-hand side of the monitor. The crew will also at that time close their visors in preparation for launch. Now at T-minus 5 minutes, we'll be in terminal count, and Dragon will transition to its internal battery power. We'll hear continued call-outs on the countdown net as we get close to 0 and to liftoff. But right now, 12.5 minutes to go, everything looking good. Leah and I will be commenting, but we're going to let you listen into a lot of the discussion and just enjoy the last 12 minutes.
Bueno, mientras que se produce el lanzamiento, queremos saludar a Román Romero, quien nos está saludando. También a Marisol Nápoles, quien nos saluda en esta noche. Son las 7:15 minutos. Nos quedan 12 minutos para el lanzamiento. En 12 minutos el lanzamiento.
As we get into the final countdown and then after liftoff, these are Spacex flight controllers. They're reporting the trajectory, the speed, the booster performance, and some of the key milestones for Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon on the way uphill. It's about a 9-minute ride to orbit, and a few minutes after that is when we'll see Crew Dragon separate from the second stage and begin flying free on its own. Some of those other calls you'll hear upon liftoff are number and letter combinations. These mark different abort zones throughout the flight. The first two are 1A and 1B. This signifies they're in the first stage, and that will last until they're up to the very north of North Carolina. The next are 2A through 2E or 2 Echo. Those will come into play once the second stage kicks in.
Estamos a 1 minuto de que NASA dé las últimas instrucciones. Faltando 10 minutos para el lanzamiento. 10 minutos para el lanzamiento, son las 7:16. Quedan 11 minutos, faltando 1 minuto. NASA dará las últimas notificaciones a los astronautas.
They would target off the coast of Ireland if they were later in that second stage and needed to abort. But that next call out we're listening for to the crew should come up at T-minus 10 minutes that the crew displays. Those 3 panels in front of our astronauts will be configured for launch. Now just 10 minutes and 35 seconds to go until liftoff. Also, as John and I mentioned, that stage 2 fuel load is complete. Stage 1 is at about 90%.
10 minutos, 10 minutos para el
Second
despegue.
stage is about 40%, and on the first stage, about 85%.
No sé ustedes, pero en estos momentos no puede uno evitar sentirse completamente feliz y también con incertidumbre ante el lanzamiento. Es la segunda nave SpaceX, la primera fue Demo 2 hace unos meses, que llevó a 2 astronautas a la Estación Espacial Internacional. Ahí tenemos ya todas las indicaciones de NASA.
Have an amazing trip and know that we are all for one.
Thanks, Jay, and to all the people at NASA and SpaceX. By working together through these difficult times, you've inspired the nation, the world.
Go for launch, está diciendo NASA en este momento a los astronautas.
Incredible vehicle resilience. And now it's time for us to do our part, crew one for all.
Copy all. Thanks, Hopper.
That was the voice of Commander Mike Hopkins confirming those
Crew One for All es lo que acaba de decir el comandante de la misión en su comunicación con el centro de mando en la Florida. Matt Hankins confirmando que se mantiene en este momento la luz verde para el despegue. Siete minutos para el despegue. Todo luce bien según NASA.
We'll open the pre-valves. That'll allow us to begin passing a small amount of liquid oxygen through the inlet of the turbo pumps. That'll chill them down to get them ready for when we bring the pumps up to full speed at T-minus 2 seconds.
Bueno, vamos a concentrarnos, faltando poco menos de 7 minutos en el lanzamiento.
In contact with a warm pump and turn into gas, something you want to avoid on a turbo pump.
7 minutes and 40 seconds now to lift off. We're still watching those fuel levels tick up, and in the first stage, we're almost at 100% of that densified kerosene. As we mentioned, second stage is full. First stage fueling should be complete for that RP1 at about T-minus 6 minutes.
Las 7 de la noche, 21 minutos, estamos a 6 minutos del despegue.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
And there's the call out. Stage 1 engine chill has started. Indicates that we are opening the pre-valves. Liquid oxygen now beginning to flow slowly through the turbo pumps on the Merlin 1D first stage engines.
Next call out should be in about 30 seconds from now. We'll be looking for stage 1 RP load complete. That's the densified kerosene, that fuel on the first stage, already full on the second stage, and we'll still be loading liquid oxygen up until about 2 minutes prior to liftoff on the second stage. Standing by for that fuel call.
Stage 1 fuel
5 minutos para el despegue. 5 minutos.
Okay, right on time and a great view of Dragon. Sitting on top of the Falcon 9 as we're continuing to load liquid oxygen onto both the first and second stages. The RP1 kerosene fuel
Se
is
acaba
now
de
completely loaded
completar
on both stage 1 and stage
en
2.
este
All
momento
continues to go well.
el llenado de
Just
los
under 6
tanques
minutes to launch.
de los cohetes, la primera y la segunda etapa
About
del
30
cohete Falcon
seconds,
9.
we'll enter terminal count. Dragon's onboard computers will take control of the vehicle. Both fuel on first and second stage is complete, and liquid oxygen loading continues with the second stage at about 80%, first stage at 95%. Something else you might notice is water rushing the pad shortly before liftoff. That's to suppress the sound and keep any sound from imparting a load on Crew Dragon as it prepares to lift off.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count. Dragon is on internal power.
Hola, Caterine
Falcon 9
González
tanks are
en
pressurized and
Chile.
for strong back
Obviamente
retract.
estamos todos emocionados con este lanzamiento, Caterine.
Good
Esperamos que
confirmation that Dragon
en
is
4 minutos ya
on
estamos
internal
en
power.
el
And
conteo
now we'll be
final.
looking
Conteo
for
final para el
a major
lanzamiento,
milestone
Caterine.
before we launch today. That'll be the strong back retract. John, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Leah, if we get a close-up of the Dragon at second stage,
Strong back is retracting.
we've heard the call out, strung back retracting. That's a two-step sequence. First, there are clamp arms around the very top of the second stage. You can see one of them just above the gaseous oxygen vapors coming out of the second stage. Those arms will open up, and then just inside of T-minus 4 minutes, once the arms are released, we'll begin to retract the strong back alongside the vehicle. It'll move back 2 degrees in position, and by about T-minus 3.5 minutes, we ought to be finished with that. The strong back will retract to 45 degrees away from the rocket once we hit T0 as part of the liftoff sequence.
Esperamos. Caterine nos comenta que si habrá esta vez dinosaurios de juguete, seguramente este es el sello de Spacex, los dinosaurios. Cuando se llegue a la gravedad cero, ellos dejan volar el dinosaurio por toda la cápsula resiliencia, que se ha llamado así, por toda la situación difícil que vive el mundo en este momento. Estamos a 3 minutos de lanzamiento y cada vez más nos sentimos bastante emocionados con este lanzamiento. Le quedan pocos minutos, todo sigue normal. Tenemos luz verde por parte de NASA.
T-minus 3 minutes, 8 seconds. Everything continues to be go on Dragon and Falcon 9.
Currently standing.
Seguimos adelante en la cuenta según el Centro de Control.
Dragon is in terminal count, and we are standing by to hear that stage 1 liquid oxygen loading is complete. Stage
1 LOX load is complete.
And there we have it, and stage 2 should finish shortly after, about 2 minutes prior to liftoff.
So now the last major event is finished liquid oxygen loading on
Está la
stage 2.
confirmación
Wraps up at about T-minus 2 minutes.
Están
Then at
los
about
tanques
T-minus a
llenos en
minute
este
and a half,
momento
we have to
del
drain
Falcon
back
9.
and vent down the liquid line that goes up the strong back alongside the Falcon 9.
2 minutos para el despegue.
If you
2
see a large
minutos.
white cloud about midway down around the rocket, that's normal. That's again just the gaseous oxygen hitting the warm, moist Florida air.
Stage 2 LOX load is
Está
complete.
diciendo el relator de NASA que este vapor que estamos viendo es
Dragon is
normal,
in auto idle.
el vapor que se ve en el cohete hasta ahora, y nos
And good
preparamos.
calls,
Estamos
the
a 1
stage 2
minuto del
liquid
lanzamiento.
oxygen load is complete. That means
1
we
minuto
have
para el
full
lanzamiento.
fuel on the first and second stages, that densified kerosene, and we're full of the oxidizer. Liquid oxygen
Preparados
on
para
the
el
first
conteo
and
final.
second stage as well. Now just a minute and 20 seconds until liftoff today. And as you can hear those
Luz
sounds,
verde,
like Soichi
luz verde por el
said,
momento de
the
NASA.
vehicle is alive. Coming up in 10 seconds, we'll look to hear that the Dragon is in countdown.
1 minuto 25 segundos para el
Falcon 9 is in
lanzamiento.
startup.
Dragon 8 countdown. FTS is armed. Falcon 9 is a startup and is now controlled.
10 segundos para la cuenta final.
50 seconds now until liftoff. That FTS you heard is flight termination.
SpaceX, go for launch.
Bueno, llegó la hora.
Go for launch, and at 37 seconds the International Space Station
Vamos a
flying
empezar el conteo final y vamos go for launch. 30 segundos.
Crew Dragon poised to go catch it.
Preparados para el lanzamiento.
20 seconds till liftoff.
T-minus 15 seconds. Falcon 9 is configured for flight. 10,
Aquí vamos.
8, 7, 6, 5,
17, 16, 15 segundos.
1, 0. Ignition.
And resilience rises. Not even gravity contains humanity when we explore as one for all.
Tenemos despegue. Despegue en este momento.
M1 propulsion is nominal.
That's the word we want to hear. Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
As 30 seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9. Stage 1 is preparing to throttle down. This is in preparation for max Q, which is maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Stage 1, throttle down.
There's that call out for throttle down.
Power and telemetry continue to be nominal for the vehicle, now traveling at 262 meters per second.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
There's that call out. The Falcon 9 is supersonic, and we will be passing through max Q here shortly.
Estamos
The largest
asistiendo a un
structural load
evento
during this
maravilloso.
Max Q.
Estamos asistiendo
There's that
al
call
evento
out.
de lanzamiento
That
del
Falcon
Crew
has
One.
passed through max
Esto abre
Q.
las puertas para la exploración
And we
espacial
just entered
de la humanidad
Stage 1 Bravo,
en los
a
próximos
board mode
años.
that's going to take them through
De esta
the end
manera,
of the first
SpaceX
stage
recibe
burning
su
just
grado,
before
así
second
como lo oyó en
stage
su grado,
activates off the coast of
para
North
llevar
Carolina.
misiones tripuladas tanto a la estación espacial como a lo que se viene para llevar una misión tripulada
1 minute and
a la
40
Luna
seconds
en los
into flight,
próximos
Dragon
años.
and Falcon 9 traveling 709
Felicitaciones, felicitaciones a NASA,
That call
felicitaciones
that
a
MVAC chill is
SpaceX.
underway. The Merlin vacuum engine.
Now with the call out of MVAC-D chillin, similar to what we saw in the first stage Merlin engines, the second stage engine being prepared for its
Vamos a
ignition,
entrar ya
coming up in just
en
over
pocos
30
momentos
seconds
sobre
from
Mico.
now. We're a half a minute away from 3 quick events in rapid succession. We're going to get main engine cut off. The 9 Merlin engines will throttle down and then shut down. We're going to get stage separation.
Stage 1, throttle down.
And then ignition of the second stage engine. We've begun the throttle down
Mico,
in preparation
main engine
for
cut off.
stage separation.
Vendrá en algunos segundos, estemos preparados. Y nos preparamos para la separación de la primera etapa. Se produce en este momento la separación de la primera etapa.
And
Ya
you
tenemos
see that
Mico,
stage separation has
main
confirmed.
engine cut off.
There goes that MVAC engine. Stage 2. Crew 1 is now on their way to the International Space Station.
Está confirmada la separación de la primera etapa. Estamos ya con el segundo motor.
You see stage 2 continuing to burn. Over on the left-hand side is stage 1 preparing for its return to Earth.
Espectacular momento que vivimos hoy aquí.
Currently on the left side, you can't make out much. It's a couple hours after sunset in Florida, but the grid fins have deployed on the first stage. The first stage is now
En la pantalla de la
unpowered, but with the
izquierda
loss of
estamos
gas,
viendo
it
la
continues to
preparación de la
coast up
etapa
to an
número
apogee
1,
before it begins
la
to
etapa
descend
número
back
1 que
into Earth's
regresa a
atmosphere.
tierra.
Now as we watch, maybe we'll see the lights of Florida or the eastern seaboard in the background, but otherwise there's not going to be much to see. On the right-hand side,
Dragon, SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
you can hear the call out. Trajectory is nominal.
Nominal trajectory.
And we've heard call out Bermuda. That means Bermuda Ground Station has the signals from the second stage of the Dragon and Falcon 9.
Está reportando NASA que todo va normalmente.
We're still continuing as stage 2 burns to listen.
Todo sigue normal en este lanzamiento exitoso de NASA y SpaceX.
Taking us up over the northern Atlantic.
Right now you can see the second stage engine glowing with the standard red that we have come to see over all these missions. Indicates everything's looking good. Power on the MVAC-D engine continues to run at 220,000 pounds of thrust in the vacuum of outer space.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
And trajectory nominal.
Copy, nominal trajectory.
And we hear the reply from the crew acknowledging we have a nominal trajectory. Dragon made it to the Falcon 9 second stage, heading into the low Earth orbit, where Dragon will then separate and begin its trip the rest of the way to the space station.
We'll be looking for SECO, second stage engine cutoff, coming up at 8 minutes and 48 seconds after launch today, so about 3.5 minutes from now. Dragon and Falcon 9 second stage currently flying 2,979 meters per second.
Now currently the first stage has begun its descent. It is through apogee. It's beginning to come back down, where it coming up in another couple of minutes we will have the entry burn, where we begin to slow down the first stage.
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Copy, nominal trajectory.
Another call out, another nominal trajectory, just what we love to hear.
That voice you're hearing on board Dragon, that's Commander Mike Hopkins speaking for our 4-person crew as they continue their journey now 6 minutes and 12 seconds after liftoff. Trajectory still nominal.
And Leah, you can see on the indicator altitude, 201 kilometers. We're now beginning to essentially level out and pick up velocity to get us into low Earth orbit. We're a little under 1 minute from the ignition for the entry burn on first stage.
And we're about 2 minutes away.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
Copy, nominal trajectory.
Great news, now 7 minutes after launch. Second stage engine continues to burn, everything looking good. And we'll see that continue to burn for another 1 minute and about 38 seconds.
Right now on stage 2, the crew's getting about a little more than 2.5 G's of acceleration. First stage preparing to ignite for the entry burn.
Stage 2 FTS has saved.
Nos aproximamos a
And we've
SECO
got ignition
en este
of the
momento.
entry burn, center engine, followed by the other 2 restart engines. First stage now getting ready to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere. This is about a 29-second burn, and it's designed to slow the vehicle way down. We're going to shed about 70% of the velocity of that dropping first stage by the time this landing burn completes. I should say by the time the entry burn completes, which is now over. First stage on target for the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. Meanwhile, we're watching second stage getting close to getting into orbit.
That's right, we've got about 30
Stage
seconds
2
more.
internal guidance.
And now just about 20 seconds more of stage 2 continuing to burn until we see second stage engine cutoff, or SECO. We'll coast for a few minutes afterward to allow the rates in motion to...
Roger, Shannon.
There's that call for Shannon. That's Shannon, Ireland, an abort zone, but it looks like we continue smoothly to orbit today.
MVAC shut down.
And we've got shutdown of the second stage engine on time.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
Launch escape system is disarmed.
And SpaceX copies.
Es
And Leah, the
Sigo
words
en
we
este
like to
momento.
hear, nominal
Sigo,
orbit
second
insertion.
engine cut off.
That's right, John. Nominal orbit insertion, as we mentioned, stage 2. Oh, looks like some action on stage 1.
Mientras tanto, pueden apreciar allí la llegada de la primera etapa, que está aterrizando en el océano Atlántico en la plataforma.
And I believe we've had a touchdown on the drone ship.
We've got stage 1 has touched down on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. But now the more important news, second stage is in orbit, right where we want, right on time, and we're getting ready for our next major activity, which will be Dragon spacecraft separation.
En el océano Atlántico acaba de aterrizar la primera etapa.
Now currently on the second stage, we are essentially venting pressure, purging the engine out, making sure everything is quiet in preparation.
Take a look. That's inside Crew Dragon right now. Our Crew 1 crew now coasting in low Earth orbit, still attached to that second stage. In just a couple of minutes, we should see that second stage separate and Crew Dragon will be flying free.
Tenemos las tomas dentro de la Crew Dragon.
Leah, the mission timer shows 90 seconds to Dragon separation.
Currently, Dragon is flying at 27,000 kilometers an hour.
De la Crew Dragon. 90 segundos para la separación de la Dragon. $29,000 kilómetros por hora en este momento.
And we're T plus 11 minutes since liftoff today, waiting on that second stage separation. But as you can see, our astronauts from left to right, Shannon Walker, Victor Glover, Mike Hopkins, and Soichi Noguchi, now on their way to the International Space Station. First trip to space for Victor Glover.
Acquisition of signal, Newfoundland.
And that call out, acquisition of signal in Newfoundland. That means the Newfoundland ground station is now receiving telemetry from Dragon. This view inside Mission Control Hawthorne. Teams continuing to monitor the vehicle, now traveling at almost 27,000 kilometers an hour.
Ten seconds to Dragon separation.
Dragon separation confirmed.
And separation confirmed. You can see that second stage departing. Crew Dragon leaving it behind.
Separation confirmed.
Now 12 minutes, 25 seconds into today's flight. Our next thing we'll be looking for is nose cone deploy. Our hooks will start to open on the nose cone and reveal those forward thrusters underneath. "13 minutes into today's mission. The view on the right-hand side of your screen coming from Crew Dragon. We had that short look at the second stage as it departed. That second stage will burn up upon re-entry into Earth's atmosphere.
Dragon SpaceX, we see nominal service section Draco checkouts and the humidifier activation.
And SpaceX, this is Dragon. We copy all and we see the same.
Confirmation from teams on the ground and the crew. You can see them monitoring those 3 display panels, monitoring their journey to the International Space Station and where they are in the world right now, or over the world, I should say.
Toma espectacular del interior de la cápsula Dragon.
Well, we're in 14 minutes, 25 seconds since it was a great liftoff. Everything happened. We had a nominal insertion into low Earth orbit. You saw Dragon separate. We got the Draco checkouts were good. And right now we're hearing the nose cone hooks are opening up. Everything is happening right per the procedure. And we've got Crew 1 successfully on orbit. So with that, let's head over to our counterparts at Kennedy Space Center. Marie, how was that launch for you all there on the ground?
Oh my gosh, John, it just took our breath away. I mean, we could just turn right around in our seats and watch. We got up away from the desk to get a better look. And then we actually could see the booster coming back down.
Yeah, that was outstanding. Outstanding. And I don't even know what to say. High five. We're like high-fiving through the shield here.
High five. My husband texted me a picture of my daughter watching liftoff. It was just, I'm emotional. Seeing that, and we went on the first attempt. How often does that happen in human space flight?
As it should.
I'm very happy. It has been a long day, but just to be able to stand there and actually feel the rocket pounding the air around you was just incredible. And then looking at the light too long, I couldn't see the MVAC ignition, so I still have spots in my eyes.
And then the views inside the capsule too, with the 4 of them, looking kind of mellow, but you could see Victor's kind of letting his arms do a little bit of the floaty thing. I bet he cannot wait to get out of his seat.
Well, he's going to get a chance to here shortly. So he's officially on his way on his first space flight.
So
Incredible.
Victor, Mike, Shannon, and Soichi are now on course to arrive at the International Space Station just tomorrow, Monday, November 16th, around 11 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to stay live on air for continuous live coverage along their entire ride to station. Though our coverage here at Kennedy Space Center will conclude, we're going to turn it over to the teams in Hawthorne and Houston to take us through the next phases of the Crew 1 mission, all the way through hatch opening and a welcome ceremony for the crew. Now, for those of you watching online via YouTube, take a look at the description below the video. There you'll find the new link for our Crew 1 rendezvous phase, and we'll be continuing live coverage at that new location shortly. But if you're watching on NASA TV, like my parents, you won't notice a thing, and your coverage will continue.
That's right. And as you follow along, we also invite you to tune into a post-launch news conference at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, right here on NASA TV, where NASA and SpaceX will take questions live. And in addition to NASA TV, of course, you can always follow along on Twitter at @NASA and nasa.gov for continuous mission updates. We thank you all so much for watching. To all of our commentators, Nicole, special thanks to you for being here.
My pleasure, ladies. Let's do it again.
Oh, please, yes. Well, we'd love to have you back. Here now are some highlights from the incredible journey that's just begun.